Hi, and welcome to the Ladies in Biz podcast, where every week we have guests that are amazing female entrepreneurs. Find out how they got started and grew their business. Discover how their story can help you grow your business. Thanks for tuning in today. Here is your host, Penny Redmond.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ladies in Biz, and we have another guest today that I'm really excited about to share with you. And I'd like to introduce you to Chala Dincoy, who is the CEO and founder of the Repositioning Expert. And your specialty is definitely in business to business, without a doubt. And I'm going to let you know, I know Chala and I go back to when we belong to the same group for Grow Your Biz. And so we get to see each other every month and talk about our business. And Chala's absolutely wonderful. She's very insightful because there's 17 women. We all have different businesses. We all have different challenges. And Chala's always able to see, you're able to simplify the problem and fix it.
I'm always telling people what to do. Yeah. I love telling people what to do.
Well, tell us now what to do. Tell us a little bit more about your business, because I know you well enough, so it's hard for me to ask you questions when I already know the answers.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say you started off with really great energy, because I'm really excited. I haven't shared this yet in this month's meeting. You're going to hear about it, but I've signed on a 3-speaker deal, and I'm going to be next, in a couple of weeks, be speaking at NASDAQ, and I'll be on a jumbotron in the New York City, the Times Square. So my face is going to be on I've never seen my face that big, so I don't know what that's going to be like. But part of my the media training that I've received is that you have to 100 times your energy. You have to be a spaz almost about it, which I find difficult. But yeah, so I mean, I'm not calling you a spaz, but that's the right thing to do, is to start with that crazy energy engaged. But yeah, so this is on video, so it's even better.
It is better.
Energy is even better.
Well, it's a little unnerving. I must say that when we're doing the podcast and we do it just by audio, it is easier, but you don't have that connection with the other person in the same way. It's just different. It's not, it's much better by video. Yeah. But so pretty exciting. So the first question I ask everyone, it's a tradition, so you can't break tradition. So the tradition is always, in the format for Ladies in Biz, is definitely to get an understanding of how did you ever get here? How did you get to this place? How did you become an entrepreneur?
Right.
And then you start breaking it down on what things we really got to make sure that our listeners know about that can help their business.
Yeah, I mean, I dreamed sort of going up the corporate ladder, and because I was just not the corporate kind of person. I was not a yes man. I didn't follow rules. I always spoke my mind. I was very direct. I would tell 3 bosses up what to do. And if they were wrong, I disagreed with them. And my own bosses would be in the fetal position. And I often thought I was smarter than my bosses. So if any of them are listening. But towards the end of 18 years, I had enough. And I started to have the entrepreneurial dream. I had a very good coach. So she and I talked about, whether I could do coaching. And I had a passion for self-development. So I thought, I'm going to help other people self-develop. And then she quickly helped me get certified as a coach. And I went to, for a weekend or for a week training, day till dawn, and certified as a coach. And then worked part-time as a coach, and then full-time still in my corporate job. So I would speak at nights to get clients, and I would work weekends and take holidays to be able to go travel and do stuff. It was really tough. And then when I had a baby, that all stopped. And then I had a fight at work with a woman that lasted 2 years, and that was it, because my boss wouldn't do anything about it. He didn't know what to do. And then I said, this is it. I'm not going to live the rest of my life like this, and I'm not going to go get another job. So I pray to that woman every day, to that poor woman. And so here we are. And now I make 3 times what I used to make, and, go on vacations and drive the car I want and work with people I like. And I really only work half the time because, I think, I'm a gym freak. Like I work out a lot. I have a big passion for fitness. So, and I have a little 9-year-old and he takes up a lot of my time. So yeah, it's wonderful, to work half the week and make 3 times as much. And that's what's possible for you if you overcome some demons and challenges. And there are certainly some, which I'm sure you're going to ask me about.
Well, I might. Actually, it's so funny. I was talking to another person that's coming on as a guest, and we were saying that what barriers have you had? Like, what barriers do women have when they're starting to become an entrepreneur? And we decided that there isn't a person that we know that's an entrepreneur that hasn't had some barrier or challenge to get over. So what can you think of which one was the worst for you?
Mine has always been fear of lack of money, because we come from an immigrant background. And although my parents were well educated, they still came from a developing country where they grew up with that scarcity mindset of there's never enough, and so, and always be safe, always be secure, work for large corporations so they'll pay you a lot of money. And it was never true, because most of the large corporations today, I was restructured out of most of them. So there's no security. It's a lie. And they themselves were restructured into retirement. So all of that to say there's no such thing as security. And owning your own business, the biggest challenge for me was to ask for the sale, increase my prices, and, continue to get myself out of the fear when there isn't a steady flow of the same income, which if you get your marketing right and you're constantly in front of the right lead, as you know, as a marketing expert, you should be able to at least predict, the events that will get you the cash hits. So that's the point where I'm at. But I still have to every day, at some level, have to control my fear around money. And I think it's like being an alcoholic. It's like you're never cured. So you just have to reform new neural pathways around, money always continually flows to me, and I make sure that I do the activities to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does. Absolutely. So with some of the questions, actually, we did go to let everybody know in the audience. We did look at some questions because of me knowing you that I would ask you different questions than I normally would for other people. So one of the questions that we wrote down, and I think it's really a great one I'd like you to talk about is, this is cool. What's the worst thing you said to get people interested in your business? I'll get it out.
Oh God. So, I do something called, as you know, pitch coaching. So elevator pitch coaching. So elevator pitches are when you meet someone at a networking meeting or even in the elevator and they ask you, what is it that you do? That's when you tell them what you do. This is the worst thing to tell people, is to list a whole laundry list of things that you do for a whole laundry list of different kinds of people that you work with for. So the right way to do it, and I think that's the next question, is to talk about them and ask, what is it that you do? Let me tell you within context of what you do. Let me explain what I do. And then when people tell me, oh, I'm a plumber, or, oh, I'm a marketing consultant. And then I'll say, well, are you having trouble getting new customers? Or do you want more customers or more clients? And then they'll say, oh yeah, I always want more clients, if that's the case. Or sometimes they're saturated. And then I'll say, well, what's keeping you? So then I'll have a conversation with them. And then I'll say, that's what I do. I help you get more clients through figuring out your messaging. So then they understand what I do.
I think that's so clear. And, I think we've gone through different some things go through trends. And there was a trend for a while where people would say some kind of statement, and I'd look at them and I'd go, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you do. Like, it was nice that they had this little statement, but I still didn't understand what they did. Like, just tell me what you do, or tell me how you're going to solve my problem, right?
That's right. Exactly. It's all about them. Me, right? That's never changed. I mean, look at How to Win Friends and Influence People. Was that written like 80 years ago? And what does he say? The most beautiful word in the English language is somebody's own name. everybody cares about themselves. So in your elevator pitch or in anything, if you're not in your marketing, you're not using the fact that they love themselves more than they love you, or that they're interested in themselves more than they're interested in you, then you're losing their attention. You're losing that opportunity.
It's so funny. I think it's because you want to be able to say, here's why I'm so good, rather than thinking, here's how I can help you.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe it's just that, like you said, they've been coached or have heard or read somewhere that you're supposed to have this slick line or, you know, this quick thing. I mean, you know, I always say, tell people a category that they understand what you do, right? If it's like, you know, neuroscience, and that's not, you know, most people don't understand that, then say, I help people change their thoughts around smoking, or I help people stop smoking through using, you know, science. So help them understand what you do based on their pain.
One of the things I thought was interesting that you did in the event that we were just, I went to last week that you were speaking, and it was wonderful how one thing I put down is statistics. And it was one of the things you talked to a couple of people that you were helping them through their elevator speech, and you pulled out statistics that to me resonated with me.
Right. Yeah. Statistics, when you're talking about, so, you know, let's say you're selling, you know, I just came this morning from teaching at the jail.
Oh, you have to tell everybody what you do.
Yeah, I volunteer at a I don't know if it's a prison or a jail. Apparently they're different, but anyway, at the OCI, which is the Ontario Correctional Institute, and I help. It's called the Be Your Own Boss. And so all of the businesses there that we were talking about this morning for 3 hours were like plumbing, roofing, construction, right? It's all the trades. So I was just going to give you an example, but to your question, like if somebody said, if somebody's selling a roofing business and they've specialized in permanent roofing, which is more expensive, their pitch would be a statistic around, did you know that 2 out of 3 homeowners have to replace their roof within 10 years, which costs them blah, blah, blah. And what we do is we eliminate that. You never have to replace your roof, for example. So the statistic, what it does is it makes you look like smarter, like an expert, and, you know, and it makes you sort of take control of the problem and say to them that you're not the only one in this boat. It's a big problem. So it does a lot of things.
Yeah, it really validates what other people, it sort of validates the problem of the client.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not alone, and this is really what does happen, right?
Yeah, because you're not just telling them, listen, your roof is going to go in 10 years. You're telling them everybody's roof goes in 10 years.
Yeah, not just yours. Well, anyway, I just thought I'd let you know that I picked up on that, and I changed my little spiel.
Nice.
I have to practice it some more.
Do you want to do it on me?
No, absolutely don't. That's not on my list of questions.
All right. Okay.
Maybe the next meeting we'll do.
All right.
Okay, so let me see what other one we had here. We said, can you think of the most compelling marketing you've responded to?
Yeah, anything that doesn't talk about themselves and talks about me.
Yeah.
And, so some of the examples that I give, and talks about the pain. So one of the most vivid examples that I remember is I get the Etobicoke Guardian. I don't know, you live in Mississauga, right? So you must.
No, actually, I live in Mimico.
Oh,
I'm Etobicoke.
Oh, so I don't know if you get the Guardian, but we have like this free.
I used to.
Right, community newspaper. So in it was this cheap ad of a dentist with her face on it, and it said, you know, are you ashamed of you know, having to replace all your rotten teeth and pain so bad that you think you can't stand having them replaced? Well, you can come in for a confidential, no obligation, you know, checkup for us to give you a price on replacing all your teeth. And the day before, this is so weird, the day before, my client had confided in me, and she said she was 50 years old. She had never even told her family that she had been clinically depressed for 10 years. And as a result of the drugs, and because she was depressed, she had no teeth left. They were all black and rotten, like they were gone, every single one of them. And apparently this is a common problem for people who are on antidepressants and or who are clinically depressed. So, and I told her, I said, why can't you just go to the dentist? And she said exactly everything that I read in the ad. She said, it's going to be so painful to get them all. I can't afford my whole mouth. And I'm deathly embarrassed. You're the only human I'm telling this to. You think I can go and show it to strangers? So, and the next day, I look at the Etobicoke Guardian and there it is. So it was as if it was written by her. So when your marketing is written as if it's coming from the mouth of your ideal target, of your exact niche target, then it's a winner. And to me, that was like one of the best. And right across from it was another dentist. And they had more stock photography. They didn't use their own picture. But it was such a mishmash of so many different messages, like we're multilingual, we take credit cards, we do, Invisalign, we do this, we do that. It was like eating a whole pie, if you remember that picture. So
Yeah.
it was trying to do everything all at once, and it did nothing. So it was just, I always use those two examples of trying to talk about too much with no specific target versus just having like a love letter to just one person.
Well, I know you and I are big believers in really narrowing that niche down and understanding what that avatar is. And lately, I've been even really pushing the limits on getting for the psychographics. The demographics are so easy for everybody, right? You know, the age, you know, where they live, blah, 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 female, male, whatever. But when you get into that psychographics, and it sounds like that dentist got in the psychographics and went right into the lifestyle of their client, and that's why they were so effective. But have you come across someone like this? Is another conversation I had. Is it scary when you try to break down and become a specific niche? Because then you think, oh my God, I'm going to lose business because I'm not a niche. I haven't found it yet.
Yeah,
I'm afraid.
It's so scary. And I don't know if you remember the two women lawyers, and then they were there. They spoke earlier in the day, and then I kind of trashed them when I was on stage, and I said, oh, the lawyers are gone. They charge by the hour. And then apparently they were there. So they saw me afterwards and they said, we were there. I said, I'm so sorry. And then she asked me the same thing. She said, we're lawyers. Like, we do everything. How can we specialize? And I said, you know what? I said, and she said, I'm worried about losing business if I specialize. And I said, if you ever go to the States, and this is true for all businesses, that in Canada, they're so scared to specialize. They're so scared to niche, and they're so scared to narrow it too finely. But in the States, there's so much more competition that they're so much better educated about marketing. Even your basic multi-level marketing mom, she knows she has to niche. She knows she has to pick a very specific target and a positioning. So I said to them, look at the lawyers in the US, and they go, oh, I know, like they're so specialized. They're like incredibly like vertical. And I said, yeah. And even look in Canada at the very successful lawyers, they wrap buses, got backpain.ca, right? Like, or 1-800 been sued for a fall, or, whatever it is. But the really big ones that are doing like Diamond and Diamond, the ones that are doing all the big advertising because they can afford it, are the specialized ones. And I said, if you want to grow, that's what you have to do. But they were like, okay. They were not, I don't think they were convinced. And I've never met a lawyer in Canada that I spoke to do their marketing that wanted to specialize, because it just, for some reason, it scares them so much. They think they're going to lose opportunities. And yet, if it's deep enough in when that's enough.
I think it is too. And I've seen too many people now where when they found their niche, they became so much more successful. And as we see more and more, actually someday we should write down a list of all the people we know where they really went into finite niche and how their business excelled after that, and just have a whole show on people that have done that. Because
I did. I used to. It was called Get Naked with Your Marketing, or Get Naked with Your Marketing, and it was like confessionals. And most of the confessionals of like your worst marketing mistakes. And it was a video like this video series, interview series. It wasn't a full podcast, but that's what people would say. When I was a generalist, I was making so little money. And then when I specialized, ta-da, like I doubled, tripled my income. I've got that documented. So I interview anybody I hear with that story because I love it.
Still available online anywhere? Like
you can go onto my YouTube page.
Okay, great. So we're at the end of the notes, we're going to put down, well, we're going to go over all of where people can reach you and everything, but let's make sure that we put down your YouTube channel as well so people can go and watch that, because I certainly will go watch it. I think that, I know I'm always nervous about that. Even with telling clients, I get a little nervous because I'm thinking, oh my God, what if I tell them this is their niche? But sometimes it's so obvious.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I try not to tell them, right? I have a process where the market decides. We do some research. I'm not sure, we've never talked about our processes, but the way that I do it is when I used to work for Pepsi, Pizza Hut, Frito Lay, we used to launch products every year. I mean, more than one product. And I was a brand manager. So I used to have to do research in the market on consumers on which product, what flavor, what, you know, all of these things what price and what's the positioning, what's the message. And we used to spend millions of dollars in research. And when I left and I looked at the small business market, they're just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. Nobody's actually doing any research. So I developed a process and a platform where we can do the research for small companies on our own so that you don't have to hire a research company. And the market tells us what is the best niche, where is the lowest hanging fruit, where is the deepest opportunity. And like, it's never wrong. It's never wrong. Because the market's never wrong. The market is telling you, this is our need, this is our pain, this is what we pay for.
I think it's even more apparent even with the digital world because people are engaging more. So you're getting more feedback from everyone.
Sure, definitely.
And before I know when I was in marketing for corporations and stuff like that, is that we didn't have, or even when we advertised, I thought it was great because we knew it sold a lot, but we really never really knew exactly why or how it sold. We knew we did an ad and it was somewhere, and yes, we think it must have been successful because we got sales. But at least with digital marketing and digital ads, you really know if people have responded to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, everything is trackable now. I was just reading that there is a score assigned to you according to how much you purchase and how frequently you purchase from any retailer, online or offline, or any service like Rogers, my phone. And they keep you waiting on the phone for any calls that you make according to that score. So if your score is low, they keep you waiting longer. So if you don't buy a lot and you're like not as important to them, they keep you waiting for much longer on the phone. Isn't that hilarious? Like, so wait times. Like, that's how much information is. That's just hilarious to me because and then I posted on LinkedIn when I read it, I said, I must have the lowest customer score with Rogers because I wait for an hour whenever I call them.
Do they have squeaky wheel as part of that? Because I'm embarrassed to say that they answer my calls quickly.
There must be some algorithm, you know what I mean, to the score. Maybe it does have that in it.
It probably does, because it'd be wonderful to me when if I call, it seems like I'm not waiting for very long.
That's amazing. Well, you're certainly doing something right for that score, and I'm not.
No, I think it's a squeaky wheel. I really do, because whenever there's an issue, I definitely complain or let them know about it. And I had an issue just a few months ago, and it was about my phone, and we shouldn't trash poor Rogers because but what happened was they told me my phone would go on sale in the next month, and so maybe it wouldn't be a good idea to buy it at that time. And I figured, wow, isn't that nice? They're trying to save me money. I really like this. And then I went to go and I called, and unfortunately the price had gone up.
Oh my God, how bad is that? Like,
yes. So I did have to go right to the president's office.
Wow. Good.
Yes, I did. I wasn't letting it go. And you know how they tape everything?
Yeah.
So they actually went back to the original conversation I had.
Ooh,
And
okay.
luckily, my husband had heard it too, because we were in the car. It was on a Saturday at that time when I was calling him.
God.
So he had heard it over the speaker. So I knew I wasn't losing it. I knew they had said a
So
certain
did they
price.
retrieve it and they gave you the money?
Yes, they said that they went back, they listened to it. They did not apologize, but they did give me, I don't think Rogers would like me to say this, but they gave me the phone, a new phone.
Well, I think they would like you to say that, because remember what Marga always says, that the customers she had that complained, and Marg is our chair for our board, but she said that they had, when she was the president at Duocom, they had higher customer satisfaction ratings for customers who had had technical issues because of how well they handled it than customers who had never had issues. So, you know, if they handled it that way, although, you know, you have to fight for it, it's still, I mean, they had to give you something, right?
I would have been probably just as happy for an apology and if they kept the same price, actually. So they went over and beyond.
But yeah, exactly. So aren't you happy?
Oh yeah, I love my phone.
Oh, now I'm wishing I would have called. I wish I had a phone.
Yeah, so everybody complained. But anyway, so was there something else? Like, you know, one of the other things that we had on the list is that if you wanted to give a message to, say, a young entrepreneur and they were just starting out, what would you want them to know for sure? It would save them a lot of headaches.
Learn how to sell.
Oh, and I know where they can go to do that.
No, I mean, in life, that is the number one skill. Like, and it could be for, you can sell up within, you know, you've worked in corporations, but especially if you're an entrepreneur, learn how to sell. Like the operations, you can always get someone to do it, because people are willing to do operations more than they're willing to do sales. And you can find a lot more people who are good at operations than at sales. And most people, you know, buy things, but they don't sell them. And it's a skill. It literally is a skill. And most people hate to sell. So if you become very good at selling, you can have the most successful business ever, because that's the thing that always falls apart, is not the job itself, but the selling of the job to get more clients.
You know, for years, I had no problem selling it if it was a product. When I was working for corporations, like it's tangible item, it's got a cost, it's got a feature, and that was easy. And then I worked for TJX companies where it was off price, fine. And it was, HomeSense was just starting out, and no suppliers wanted to buy from us or to sell to us because they felt as though it would destroy their relationships with their other customers. And so we had to sell the business. We didn't have to sell, we had to sell ourselves or sell the corporation. And it was interesting because and this is such old school, you'll laugh at this, but one of the things that I did, and I don't know if it's still important, but is finding their button that would make a difference to them to change over to selling to us. So I had to find out, was it because they had cash flow problems? Were they maybe stuck with a bunch of inventory that they couldn't get rid of? Or maybe they just overshot and bought way too much, or they're trying to get a smaller location for storing inventory. So all I had to do was find out what was their problem, what was their pain point, same thing. Sure. And then once I found out that pain point and talked to them, then I was able to sell it. But I got to tell you, so I'm going to ask you a question. I'm getting to the end of this, is that I find it very hard to sell myself. Yeah. So what would you say about that?
It's very common. I've had clients who've sold multi-million-dollar deals for someone else, and yet for their own services, they're like, oh my God, what do I do? It often comes down to two things. One is self-confidence, like self-esteem. Like, am I that valuable? Am I valuable? Am I as valuable as the multi-million-dollar products and services I was selling for someone else? Who's going to pay that for me? I'm just me. So that one thing that you have to get over. And then the other is you don't know how. Because the how is different for selling someone else and something else than it is to talk about yourself and to say, I am so good at this. I do this well, I do that for you, I do this for you. So that's the how piece, which is, part of what I teach is, how do you position yourself as the expert? How do you do educational marketing to establish yourself as the expert? And how do you let your marketing and content really do the selling for you so that all it is at the end is you never ask for the sale. They ask for the price. And that's it. You never have to ask for the sale. They will ask you, how much is it? Because your message is so compelling and your content already established in their mind that they need you.
Well, I must say that I'd love to be selling a tangible item more than services.
You're not alone. So many people say that, but it's because of those two things. One is the self-doubt, and then the two is I don't know how. Because
yeah, and I think the other thing is I think that we're taught, or somewhere along the line, I was definitely taught. Well, I can tell you, I know what corporation was big on this, is being humble, how important it was to be humble. And I'm not saying that they're wrong, but when you pretend if you go beyond the humble, then you don't come across as being an expert either. So it's trying to find that fine line of where you're not sounding like you're a know-it-all but somewhat humble, right? It's finding that fine line.
Yeah, so that's a belief, right? That you need to be humble. And we've worked on a lot of, when I work one-on-one with clients in my VIP program, we definitely talk about mindset. And that comes up a lot, is that I should be humble. Whether it's been taught by a corporation, like in your case, or by their family, or by their culture, or by their religion. And it's everybody has a different definition of humble, but it's wrong to be humble about being an expert in one topic. Because you can be humble about everything else but that topic. And if you don't know everything about that topic, you go find out. And you should not be humble about that one topic, because people need you to be a know-it-all about the one topic, because you have to know more than them. You have to know more than anyone if you're going to command the kind of prices that you want. Otherwise, they can just open, Google and find out, or they can hire someone cheaper. So the higher your prices, the more you have to be a know-it-all about that one topic.
Yeah, and again, it's finding that niche, and that and when you find that niche, then your topic normally is narrower, so it allows you to be a greater expert, right?
Yeah, and if you think about it, what is being humble? What is being humble?
Well, that's a good question.
Is it pretending you don't know as much as you do?
That's a great question. I've just said that again. I just repeated myself, but humble to me, I never really caught on to the humble part, I must tell you. Because I like the idea, if you know something, you should be sharing it. Because if I think it's cool and it's neat, then other people would want to know it. I just can't believe they wouldn't.
I mean, if they want it, like in coaching, one of the things is if they want the help, right? You can't just offer the help if they don't want it. But, like when I'm on stage or even in a, round table, and I hear people introducing themselves, I ask, do you want, help with that? That's my expertise. Do you want help with that? And then I give it to them. So it never even crosses my mind whether that's humble or not, because it's not even in my consideration. So it's just a set of beliefs, just like any of the fears, to stop you from success.
Now, I think you actually said a sentence a minute ago, which is really wonderful. It's worth repeating, is that you ask permission to help the person.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really important, because, as my children would tell you, I'm a Miss Know-it-all. And I've learned, and they've taught me, and they'll laugh when they listen to this, is that, and I'm sure they've noticed a big change in me over the years, is I always say, do you want me to offer you some advice on this, or are you okay with it? Or do you want me just to listen?
Yeah. No, it's something they taught us in coaching. You cannot coach without permission. You can't. And you can't, force it on it. People have to ask you, which is why when I work with clients, the onus is on them. They have to set up the calls. They have to set the reminders. They have to call me. They have to call into a video line. And if something gets missed, they have to pick it up. And they are 100% responsible for both their failures and their successes. And I don't own it, because the process is the same. And there's superstars who do well with it. And then there's people who don't even show up after paying $25,000. Right?
It does amaze me, because I know that with some clients, I find that they're just like so gung-ho. Like, I mean, you just can't give them enough information to keep them going. And then there's others, because I think you and I are like this, we just go and get it, right? And then when you stumble on a client that maybe it, doesn't go at the warp speed that, is unhuman like we do, but it's sort of a surprise when people don't want to do it so quickly. But I think you're right. You have to be so respectful of them, right? And
I mean, I'm okay if they're slower than what I'd like. It's just when they don't even show up. And there's lots of people who check out because they refuse to do something that's difficult and to grow. And, that's the reason why they're hiring someone, right? I mean, I have coaches for like fitness. I have coaches for personal development. I have coaches for business. And I do everything I am a different bird, and like you, I will implement to death. If they say, Chala, run naked down the street, I will. But luckily nobody said that. But I can alter and I can change things up within my program. I'm not that much of I'm not that much of an ogre, but it's when they don't even show up, and that's the heartbreak. But we have something we talk about in the VIP program called your failure signature. So how you failed in the past, it will be repeated because it's driven by your patterns and your conditioning. So I often ask with a VIP client, where did you quit in the past? What was the last thing you quit? And then we look at what was the decision tree to get to that quitting. And then most likely it's going to be repeated again. And is my program going to be the thing that you repeat it with, or elements of the program or whatever? So we have that discussion in the VIP program for sure. And it's helped avoid lots of disasters.
That's so amazing, because it's so true of personal and professional that we tend to repeat ourselves maybe on the areas that shouldn't be repeated, right?
Patterns, yeah. We are run by patterns.
Do you think we're running out of time? Because I've been having too much fun.
I was kind of sneaking my looks, and I'm thinking, are you okay for time? Like,
I think we're probably over time, so we better not continue on.
I'm like, mouth, yak, and you're no guy,
Well, we'll have to do this again for another year, so we can just continue the conversation that we're going to have after. But anyway, so again, I'm just going to make sure before we sign off that your message is being said to any entrepreneurs. There hasn't been anything that we overlooked that you wanted to have a clear message on, and maybe to also give us an understanding on where people can find you as well.
Sure. The repositioner.com is my website, and all of my social media channels are under Chala Dincoy. Some of them you have to request to be added because now we shut them to private settings because of the my volunteer work, shall we say, for security purposes. But yeah, absolutely. And Chala@repositioner.com is my email address. You can always get in touch with me, and I'm sure you'll put links in the podcast. So yeah, my biggest advice is learn how to sell and get the right message.
And sell yourself and sell your product, sell your service, right? So it's all of that.
Yeah, learn how to sell.
Well, Chala, I'm going to see you in a few more days. Yes. So anyways, so thank you so much for coming on, Ladies in Biz. I really appreciate it. And I know that women that are listening to this have certainly learned from you, and it'll help propel their business forward, which is amazing. So thanks
for inviting me.
Thanks for listening to the Ladies in Biz. Send us your comments on ladiesinbiz.com. We would like to hear from you.